I'm Sonya Morton Firth and you're tuned in to the Sonya Morton Firth Show. 2020 has been an unimaginable year on all fronts. The worldwide pandemic has had a significant effect on all of us in one way or another. That hasn't stopped my inspiring guests bringing value to people's lives through their extraordinary stories. This week, I wanted to give you the very best bits of 2020 so far. There's a wealth of advice, support, and positivity for a more fulfilled life in these clips alone. Please hit subscribe to hear more from my inspiring guests and get full access to all of the interviews.
I'm not a universal soldier. I've got feelings, I've got emotions, and therefore I should speak about them. And I encourage to do that because it's not being weak to go and talk about some of the events that you've witnessed, because they're foreign events. They're not what we do day to day. So it's okay to speak about that. And actually you feel good, and it's a release to do so. So we encourage speaking about our mental capabilities, because we're all well and good talking about how we look physically, but no one really fancies talking about how we look mentally.
This is a powerful tool.
They go hand in hand.
Yeah,
so it's very important to do that. And it's, for me, a lesson is I should have acknowledged that sooner rather than later, because I did cause a bit of turbulence going through my own kind of mental demand and my mental battle. And just believe in yourself. And for me, it was staying true to my values and who I was. And my dad always said, just stay true to yourself and your values, and you'll get through this real turbulent time. And it's just kind of trying to stay focused, have good people around you, and keep bounding forward.
I think it's just every day just trying to create happiness. I think that's the most important thing. Sadly we saw the weekend just gone, Caroline Flack sadly took her life, and I think we live in a world where, there's always a lot of criticism and people want to jump to put things down. And a big thing for me growing up has always just been to live every day like it's your last. I lost my nan 4 years ago and she was relatively young still. And that just kind of taught me the lesson even more of generating happiness. That's always been the aim. So if I'd never made it to the Premier League, I would have been a bit gutted, but the bigger aim has always been happiness. And I'm a big believer that everyone should have the same goal in life. Everyone's number one priority and goal in life should be to create happiness. Wake up every day, love what you do, generate happiness for your friends, your family, and share it. That should be everyone's goal in life. So for me, that's always what it's been. I got asked the question a little while ago in the summer, and it was about how do you deal with knockbacks and it was,
low points.
Those low points. And it was really interesting because the question that was posed was, where were you 5 years ago? And it was quite ironic that 5 years ago I was just signing my first Premier League contract to present it, and then 5 years down the line I had just been told my contract wasn't getting renewed. And they were like, well, how do you deal with that? And I was like, well, the bigger picture is happiness every day. I've been blessed and had this amazing 5 years worth of experience. I could deal with it negatively and moan, or I've been dropped, or didn't get a good enough explanation of why I haven't got it and be angry about it, or go, well, okay, look, I've been blessed with an amazing opportunity. How do I now open the next door? And for me, it's all because the main goal is happiness. And I think that's the important thing, as I just said about in 2020, there's so many options that there's so many other things to do. It's easy to make money. If I had to, I'd go work in a pub tomorrow to generate income. It's generating money in 2020. There's always a way. Sometimes you have to take the sacrifice and do something that maybe you don't want to do, but you can do it. So I think for me, that happiness thing is what keeps me going whenever there's a knockback, just generating happiness.
And do you ever have a low point?
Oh, all the time. We all do, right? Yeah. We all get knockbacks, and we all kind of get moments where you have to go, geez.
And do you think part of being in the press and the media, obviously you interview and you present sports, and we just talked about Caroline, but do you think there's a lot of pressure in that environment?
Of course there is,
that can bring people down, obviously, to the point of taking your own life. Yeah.
Social media is an amazingly powerful tool, but it's also an incredibly dangerous tool.
I love the fact that you actually said it was a tool.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people don't see it as a tool, do they?
Yeah, people think it's their life. And look, don't get me wrong, you can make a career on Instagram, you can make a career on Twitter, and I think that's great, fair play. But for me, I only use social media for my work. I don't use social media for my personal life. I use it as a tool to promote what I do and kind of share positive energy and try and inspire people. I think the big problem is with Twitter especially, you are given a voice, which then becomes very loud. So you may have never met someone in your life before, but someone could watch this show right now and turn around and go, who the hell's this idiot? He hasn't got a clue what he's talking about. Could turn around and say, who's this presenter? They're absolutely awful. That's someone's opinion, and before you would maybe just say it to your mate down the pub, or when you're having a kickabout, or down the gym, or with your friends. But now you can put it out there into the world, which then generates traction, and people can directly see it. So all of a sudden, it's not just someone watching on television in their front lounge going, "Oh, I'm not a fan of them." Now they go on social media and put it, and all of a sudden, that person who's presenting can see that. And I think a lot of people lose sight of actually, how would you feel if someone came into your office right now and said, "You're the worst person I've ever seen in accounts"?
One of the things that they then asked you was, how's your pain, your physical pain, from 0 to whatever? And there's guys in the room with bad backs and all kinds of stuff going on, and everyone recorded as much higher. And that was to teach you that when you're in emotional pain, your physical pain is perceived to be much higher as well. So it might be you're really moaning about your knee or your leg or whatever it is. Actually, there might be more going on there, and you need to not stop, but do something to be really kind to yourself. So if I'm not firing correctly, the first thing I do is communicate. Okay, stop, talk.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell Louise, I'm not firing on all cylinders. My brain's completely gone here. I am going to struggle. What do we do? Okay, cancel that meeting. Book in a massage. Go for a swim, do whatever you can. Now COVID, I find myself up to my neck in the river, in a quiet spot, surrounded by cows.
Probably the best place to be honest. I'm sure it was.
Finding a way to chill and scale back. I might just spend the night down here next to the campfire in my little safe space.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, or I might pick up something and start carving, another carving project. I'll implement the outdoor skill set, the natural time-tested processes. It's well-known cold water works. There's hundreds of people out there on the internet right now.
You've got Wim Hof, who's like...
Bin Hof.
Bin Hof,
yeah.
yes.
Everyone's doing that
stuff. Yeah,
stuff.
they're all doing the Wim Hof stuff.
Okay, so yeah, well, I've got the river.
Yeah.
So it doesn't get any better than that.
It doesn't get any better.
So it's all these kind of things, and it's just working out what works for you, and tuning that in and making it work for you. A lot of people say, well, I live in a city and there's no possible way that I could do any of that kind of stuff. And I implore people to think of ways, think outside the box to introduce a bit of nature. Yeah, go to Richmond Park.
I live in a beautiful part of London.
In Richmond Park.
Amazing. I had a walk yesterday, and there's baby deer there now. Oh,
so you have these encounters, don't you?
And it just makes you think, actually, everything that's going on outside in the big wide world.
Yeah.
The only thing that actually really matters is this moment you're in right now, the present moment.
Completely.
And if you can focus on that, I think, and being grateful, actually.
Yep. And thinking about all the positives,
yeah,
rather than focusing on it. We make more of whatever we've got. Okay, whatever we're thinking about, we choose to focus on, we'll make more of. If you heard that classic story about the young native Indian brave who speaks to his grandfather and he says, there's a war going on inside my mind between two wolves.
No, please tell. No, but it sounds an interesting one.
And grandfather, I don't know which one will win. And the grandfather says, it's simple, it's whichever one you feed. Whichever one you choose to feed.
Of course.
Is going to survive and is going to thrive.
It's going to thrive.
And it's as simple as that.
I actually just listened to your morning routine, which I think is lovely. And everyone, well, some people don't have a morning routine, but I'm a firm believer actually in having some sort of routine when you get out of bed. Are there any tips and advice that are your secrets that you could share?
Well, the first thing that I see time and time again with individuals is that they know they want something to be different. But when you say, so for example, they will say, I just never have any time, of my own to pursue my new career or even look at it. And you say, well, what would you really love to do? They start to tell you and you say, okay, so how would you like your day to be? And they go, well, I suppose I'd like to work from 8 till 12. Okay, so let's write that down. So I think one of the tips is to document exactly how you want your life to be. It's amazing how people don't do that. That's the first thing. Set yourself a target, and this is not lofty goals. This is, how would I like my ideal day to be? Well, I would like to get up at this time, eat that, work then, see these people, read a book or whatever it is. Document that. Document that, put it in a book so it's part of a vision. Look at that every single day. Okay, so now you're very clear and you start to focus on what you really want. You've now articulated it. That's the first tip that so many people don't do. Now, the second thing is to have some consistency in your life, you know, to do little things every single day and to start to string those together so they become habits. Again, people sort of don't give it long enough. And I was exactly like that with regard to my fitness. You know, when I very first got introduced to the weightlifting thing, 3 or so months, and I thought, you know, look, I'm going to do a bit of this, but I'm not going to do all of that because, you know, it seems far too much of a faff. I thought I knew better.
Quickly.
Yeah, I
a
don't
fad
need
diet.
Yeah, I don't
just
need to do
eat.
that. Yeah. But really, once I actually got my head around what needed to be done, I thought, do you know what? I'm going to really give this a go now, and I'm going to be consistent. I got the result. And this has happened so many times throughout my life and others as well. Consistency in the end is key. You do everything, whether it's you're going to do a daily email, whether it's going to be a daily podcast, you know, a weekly podcast as you're doing, whatever it is, consistency.
I left the building, it was the Renaissance in Manchester, I think it was. I left there with no UPW ticket. And then, this is where it gets emotional because this is where my life changed. So I basically jumped in my old crappy D-Reg Peugeot, driving down the road. Best mate phones me. He says, what are you up to, speaking? I said, well, I've been to this, but I can't afford this. Stick it on my credit card. So I've pretty much handbraked in the middle of the road, turned round and gone back to the event, paid for it with his credit card number because we phoned him when I got back. And then, so that day, it was my best mate, Michael Twigg, who I want to mention on here anyway, Alan Clenans and Tony Robbins that saved my life. Because I could have left there and not spoke, and I could have gone and got more drugs.
Well, actually, you saved your life.
Yes, yeah.
They helped, they facilitated
they were
that,
yeah. So,
they were your guides,
yeah.
but you
and
saved your life.
So, because I've had a suicide attempt before, and it was my brother who saved my life with a phone call.
When did you try to commit suicide?
I think it was about 4 years ago. I had a recurring dream about walking into quicksand in Arnside or Ambleside in the Lake District.
Yeah.
I've seen this sign going to a 50th birthday, I think it was, with an XXX of whichever down the road it was. And I've seen this sign, and I had a big argument with a cousin when we were there. And then I've gone walking off. I've just walked off, and then 2 hours later, people can't find me. And I've left my phone on a chair at 11:30 at night. I've started walking out into the sea, and I thought, this is me done. Started walking out because I've visioned this, I've dreamed it. And then all of a sudden, my phone rang, just inaudible, you know, she just hear it. And it just clicked me out, and my brother phoned me randomly.
Wow,
Dave, yeah. He just like, I just feel like I phone you. It's like, whoa. So yeah, he just saved my life.
The spiritual trauma, the intellectual trauma, the business trauma, the financial trauma, the social trauma, the family trauma, and the physical trauma. So, and as example, I meet a lot of people that say, oh my God, these all people around me, all influencers and business owners, they have a life purpose, and I don't. So people get traumatized because they cannot discover what they actually want to do, your mission.
And I was in that, actually, a few years ago, up until I did the DeMartini method, up until I did the breakthrough experience. I was searching. I was like, what am I here for? What am I here for? And I could see all these people around me. I was very much into the personal growth that had discovered their life purpose, and I was constantly seeking it. Now I believe I found it, and that was through the breakthrough.
And what's mostly holding back people to discovering their true purpose in life and neutralizing the spiritual trauma is the external opinions and voices of the authorities that are constantly talking in their mind and blocking their purpose.
Yeah.
What do you need to be? What you should be?
And
what the
usually,
world is actually doing?
Or your parents from your past,
yeah.
They're telling you, like your parents were telling you to be a dentist. It was that, it's black. It's black. Okay, so that's so
spiritual
that's
trauma.
Spiritual trauma,
Yeah,
and the 7, so that's 6.
Then there's a mental trauma. Mental trauma sometimes is created unintentionally, either by a school or university. I met so many people that said, oh my God, I'm going to finish the school or university and I'm never going to learn again. I'm never going to educate myself because I'm fucking tired of that thing.
Yeah.
And I believe this is the worst thing that can happen to any individual because it's traumatized from a traditional study system. It's so boring, it's unengaged that they associate more negatives than positives from a traditional...
I hated my school days,
Yeah,
and
I
a
know.
lot of people do. Some people love them, but I remember associating learning and school days with, I really didn't
But
like
would
it.
you believe that someone could be successful without learning constantly? It's impossible. You constantly learn. You learn from your experiences,
Now
you
I
learn from
love
your
learning.
wife,
I
you learn
learn all
from
the time. I
marriage.
love it.
You learn from your business experiences, whatever. Michelangelo, being 84 years old, he said, I'm still learning. It's impossible to not.
If you're not growing, you're dead, right?
Yeah. So this is another trauma that actually is created about in that, in the context. And it's unintentional. I know that the systems that are created, they want the goodwill, they want to do the best, but it's not always happening the best because they ignore the authentic individuals and who they are.
Okay, so we've done 2. And the third?
The third is the business trauma or professional trauma, which is either a loss of business, bankruptcy, or a loss of career, being fired. This is also traumatic because it limits you, but it's interesting because I work in the United States and in Europe. So for example, in Europe, the bankruptcy is perceived as something negative. Like, let's say, shame, guilt, resentment, and so on is a lot of losses and so on. And people associate that with something negative. In the United States, I said, I help, let's say, business owners to recover after traumatic bankruptcy experiences. They said, what traumatic experiences? It's normal to bankrupt, in the United States because it's a part of evolution, it's a part of learning, and it's accepted normally as a normal thing. It's a learning path. So these two perception differences is just explaining a lot that, in some parts of the world, culture says it's okay to learn through failures, and some others as judgment. And the external judgment creates the traumatic experiences as well.
So you're sitting here and talking, Andy, with amazing positivity about the army. Yeah, obviously we know what happened to you, and yet you've still got this, like you talk about it, like you absolutely love it. And I could imagine maybe another person sitting here and going, oh my God, look what happened to me because of the army now.
Yeah, I think it's because I have had the opportunity to go and do some amazing things, and I also knew what path I was possibly taking before I joined the army. These opportunities wouldn't have become available to me. I maybe could have ended up on the wrong side of the tracks, going down that path and not lived the life that I've had. And, hand on heart for me, if you said to me tomorrow, Andy, can you have your legs back, or you go back to the same life that you had before, or stage you are now, 100% I'll stay where I am now. People that they meet, the things I'm doing, 2 young kids that can be home and put them in bed every night and read them a story, life's good. At the moment, maybe years to come, PTSD might happen with me, or it's not happened so far. Get myself busy and motivated, but it may creep up one day, mightn't it? I don't know what's around the corner, but at the moment, life's amazing, and I'm just enjoying every day.
And in 3 days of not being on my phone, my mother sat next to me, and we shared a very emotional moment, and she said, thank you. And I said, for what? And she said, this is the most time we've ever spent together. And it gets me every time. It was just...
Do you tell her you love her?
All the time. I'm in love with my mother. But it was just like, awareness is the first step to change. It was just this massive slap of awareness in the face that, wow, it took you to almost be killed to realize how one little thing needed to shift for you to have a better relationship and better connection with your family. So then did the same, went and spent some time with my brother in Thailand and put my phone away for the first time in many years.
I think so many people could learn from that.
Yeah, and look, I would say,
we should tell our family we love
if you're around people, this is me for 10 years, if you're around people and they don't like you on their phone, you've got to set up boundaries, you've got work to do, blah, 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 and I would justify this. And I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying, my way now is right. I'm just saying what I learned as a result. So that was the first thing. It was not slowing down and spending quality time, connection time with family, and that goes way beyond blood. The second thing was waiting to go all in on those things that you truly adore, love, desire. Because you can be very busy being busy, and as a result telling yourself stories of why you need to keep doing what you need to do and putting off what you want to do. So don't get me wrong, I live a great life. I love being a coach. I love being a speaker. I love doing what I do in so many areas of my life. But there's certain things that I knew I needed to do that actually were the things I wanted to do, like my third regret. So that was delaying, right? Not taking immediate action on the things that my heart most desires. And that brings me to my third regret, which is I have influenced and inspired in 16 countries. I've spoken in 16 countries. Some countries multiple times. I have a large, not a massive, but a large following on social media. And I do a lot of work coaching people in London and Europe. But the place that most matters to me and will always matter to me most is my home.
South Africa.
South Africa.
I had a vision bigger than being a personal trainer. I don't think people give themselves permission enough to be more. Having just released the book, which we'll talk about, and having released the podcast and teaching people, before that, there was like a local impact that I wanted to make, and then a national impact, and now a worldwide impact. And it was all about being more, doing more. Can I be more? Can I do more? Can I learn more? And for every single coach that I ever come in touch with, I say to them, are you undervaluing yourself? And are you living your best life and giving yourself the best opportunity to be more? Yeah, I'm doing all right right now. I'm doing all right. I say, all right is done. Enough is done. We all need challenge. Every single day of our lives, I believe that we need challenge. We need something to work towards. But do I really need a big vision? I said, do you really want to do the same every day? I said to personal trainers so often, being a personal trainer is actually boring. And they look at me and they go, what? I said, it's boring.
That's quite something, being a personal trainer.
It's boring. Because if you train the same people every day, 6 hours a day, the clients don't make much progress. You see the same people every single week. It's like being an accountant or a corporate or a lawyer, doing the same thing every day without any challenge, without any growth, without any extra income, without going on holidays, without doing more, without being more. Every job that anyone does on the whole planet is boring unless there's new challenge. So I always say to personal trainers, your life is boring because there's no challenge to it. So my advice to every trainer is, it doesn't matter whether or not what you're doing right now, you need a challenge. You need something bigger and bolder and brighter and better. And that's what I just kept saying to myself.
Hope you enjoyed the show. Remember, there's a new interview out every Monday. So hit subscribe and like, and you'll get it straight into your inbox.